Good morning, everyone. This is Denise Broom in the Engineering CAD Systems office, and this week I'd like to welcome all the structures folks that are out there in the audience. This week we are doing this one for you, and we're talking about the new quantity summary boxes for structures. I also have in my office with me this morning Cheryl Hudson from the structures office, and she's going to help me out this morning answering questions, and if there's anything that needs to be explained, she'll jump in and help us out. Alright, so let's get started. Maybe. There we go. So, what we're talking about, again, we're using the structures workspace this morning, and we're going to learn about the new workflow for documenting the quantities that you guys need for the plan summary boxes that are now being required. The joint bulletin that went out dated July 22nd, I think it was the Structures Design Bulletin 13-12, I believe. It requires that the comp books be replaced with plan summary boxes. And it's a pretty big initiative that we have started to put into place. And what does that mean for you guys? Well, you guys have always done a comp book along with the roadway. However, as far as in the plans, you've never had a summary of quantity sheet. All of the quantities have been in little boxes for whatever it may be, whether it's the concrete and rebar or whatever. You've got all the little boxes that go on each one of your detailed plan sheets. Well, you'll no longer be doing that. You're going to have a summary of quantity box that has been developed for structures. There's only one that really pertains to the structures, and it's got some new files, and you've got new sheet numbers, and there's a lot of things that are happening here. As far as the new file naming convention goes, it is B, the bridge number, sum of quantities, and it is the summary of structure quantities sheet. We have added this into the Create Edit program, so I'll be able to show you that this morning and where it's located. The new summary sheets are going to be located directly behind the summary of pay items sheet in the general bridge section of your plans. And you'd have the summary of pay items if it was a standalone without a roadway component. And if it's not, and the summary of pay items is in a roadway component, then it's going to be placed behind the key sheet or the index sheet if you've got one. I know some of them I've seen with them, some of them I've seen without it. But that's where they're to be located. And then each bridge that you have, the numbering for you guys is a little bit more complicated, not bad. But every bridge is going to have its separate set of these summary structure quantity sheets, and they're going to be numbered independently. I think this is, from what I've seen of the structures plans, this should be old hat for you guys. But basically, you'll have some general bridge pay items. A lot of times you're going to see that in a standalone project, where you may also have within those general bridge summary of pay item sheets, or summary of structure quantity sheets, you're going to see, like, you may have MOT, some traffic control, those kinds of things. You're also going to put any wall, I should put that on the slide, any wall summary boxes would also go in with the general bridge summary of quantity sheets. And they're going to be numbered, since it's general, it'll be BQ-1 to however many you may have. Following the general bridge pay items, general bridge, I keep reading that off the screen, summary quantity sheet, you'll have for the summaries for bridge 1, and they would be BQ1-1, 1-2, etc., and keep going for however many bridge bridges you may have within that project. And hopefully that all came out to where you guys understood what I just tried to convey. Okay, so the first thing that you would need to do, obviously you're still going to create or calculate your quantities the same way that you've always done it. With whether it's by hand, you've done it with CADD, you've got another software that you may use. You're still creating the quantity or calculating the quantities the same way. What I'm going to go through right now is not necessarily how to calculate, but how are we getting these summaries, these quantities into the summary boxes, and where do they need to go. So first thing we needed to have is the new file. You can go from within the actions menu on the FDOT menu. There is the create edit program, and when you bring it up and you set your project in the workspace, you're going to select the control file for the structures, and in the file group called plan sheets, you'll notice that we've added the summary of quantities. Okay, and it'll automatically pop up down here with the naming conventions. So all you would need to do is come in here and change the bridge number to 1, 2, whatever. I will say right now is that you have an option how you want to set this up. You may want to have a separate file for each bridge that you have, and you may want one for the general pay item summary boxes. And that's perfectly fine, or you can put all of the summaries into one summary of quantities file. It's however you want to do that. We're not telling you how to do that part of it. It's going to put it into the structures directory and use the structures seed file. Okay. Once you have the file, open that file up. We need to place a sheet border, and it's found under cells, sheets, and I use the border in my example here. One thing I want to make clear here, and it just is to make sure that so that it works right with LDM. When you bring your summary boxes in, make sure that when you place that sheet border, you place it at a scale of 12. Okay, I wanted to really highlight that because when we first got this started, it was like, why doesn't this come in right? Well, it was because me being Roadway, didn't pick up on that difference between the two workspaces. So you need to bring the border in at a scale of 12. All right, and then once you've done that, the next thing that we need to see about creating that Excel file that we need as a template for your summary of structures quantities box. Okay, that is used, you can get to that through linked data manager, and you'll see me refer to that all over the place as LDM, but that's the linked data manager, and it's accessed through the FDOT menu under the actions menu. Okay, and it'll bring up this toolbox. When I get into LDM, the first thing I want to do, and I've kind of brought it forward here, first thing I want to do is click on the very first icon, and this is to create a new link. When I bring that up, after I click on the first icon here, it'll bring up this link information dialog box. On that dialog box at the top, there is an option, it's create new from template. We don't have the structures, and there's really no way for us to automate your quantities. So at this time, it's just creating new from template, which brings up the select FDOT template dialog, and there's a drop down here. To get to the summary of structures quantities, you're going to want to select from that drop down list summary boxes structures. Okay, so up underneath here, and then I would highlight the file that I want, which in this case is only one, and then tell it OK. At that point, it's going to want you to save that Excel file, because basically it's taking that template from the FDOT directory, and it is going to save that template into your working directory. Okay, and it needs to go under a folder called calculations. You may or may not have this file in your working directory, but it goes straight up underneath the root of your directory. Mine's webinars, but it would be whatever the fin number is, and then directly underneath that you'd have a folder called calculations. As an option, and I've had this question asked many times, is whether or not, you know, you've got a roadway component, so they're being told to put everything into this directory, and structures is being directed to put everything in this directory. You can come in here and put in a subdirectory called structures, and that is perfectly fine, as long as it's easily to be, I guess, navigated. There isn't any confusion as to finding your files. But if you wanted to break this down into roadway and structures and then put the two, as long as it's in the calculations directory, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Once I've saved the file, it's going to take you back to this link. And I'm going to go through all of this, by the way. It's not just slides. I'll show you live. But once you get the file saved, it's going to populate that file name information into here. Okay. And I can give it a description. The description is optional. It just makes it easier if you've got multiple summary boxes in the MicroStation file. They'll all show up in LDM, and having a description makes it easier to go back if you've got to update one of those summaries to figure out which one it is that you need to update. Okay, so that description, it's really in there for you. Okay, the Excel settings, since this is an Excel file, Excel settings will show up down here. I want to select the worksheet, which is going to be Bridge 1, and then leave it to the FDOT standards, and make sure you can turn on update graphics if you want. That updates the graphics from the Excel file every time you open up the file. But make sure you leave this use plot scale toggled off. Okay, that way it's not trying to use the plot scale to make the summary box bigger. It'll mess things up. So just leave this turned off with your sheet border at a scale of 12, and everything will come in like it should. Once you've set this dialog up, you click OK, and it's going to place that summary box on your cursor. And so you just click anywhere within your summary box, and it will place that blank summary within MicroStation. Ta-da! It's really not a very hard process. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. Okay. Using the right-click options, and I'm going to show you this too, you can, at this point, once it's in the file, I can come in here now and I can tell it to open source, which opens up the Excel file that link is connected to. I can make changes to that source file, save it, then come back in here within LDM, highlight that link, and then click Update Now, and it'll update the new information into MicroStation. And hopefully that all made sense. And it looks like everyone is answering questions. Yay. And they've all been answered. So I'm going to go ahead right now and go into MicroStation. I'm sharing a keyboard with Cheryl, so this ought to be interesting. Okay. So this is the example that basically of what I just showed you that I went through. But I'm going to go through and show you guys exactly all the steps that I just went through. So the first thing that I did is I went into Actions, Create Edit File, and I opened up Create Edit. I set the project settings. Let me go browse out there to the right one. Scroll. And it's under Webinars. And select that project. Tell it OK. until that okay. Right. It's make sure that I've got the control file set to the structures, and then the file group is going to be plan sheets. And I'm going to grab the summary of quantities. I have a 1 in there, so this one I'm going to just put a 2 to create a second one and tell it to create the file. And then I can use this option. I can either use the open file button here on create edit, or I could go up and do a file open and open up the new file. Tell it okay. So now I'm in the B2 sum of quantities 01.dgn file. Alright, so the next step was to come in here and under cells, go to sheets and place a border. When I place it, I want to make sure that my scale over here is set to 12. And then just place the border in my file. Okay, so there's my border. Well, now I got to put something in it. So I'm going to go to Actions, FDOT Link Data Manager. Okay, so underneath the Link Data Manager, when it opens up, and you guys will probably see that I'm running a 0.22 version. This will get posted soon. You guys are running probably either probably 18. But this is coming soon. I'm going to click on the Create New Link, and I put that out there for those of you that may be following along in MicroStation. A lot of times I do have different ones that are trying to follow along, so some of the stuff that you're seeing is not exactly what you have, but you will see this very soon. Okay, so under the Structures workspace, it uses a different settings file. So whenever I click on Create New from Template, you'll notice that my options here are different than it would be for if you were under the Roadway workspace. All right, so once I've gone into Summary Boxes, Structures, I'm going to grab the Summary of Structures Quantities, tell it OK. I want to save that in my Calculations folder, and I don't think there's one in here. Yeah, there is. I'm just going to overwrite the one that I have. No, I'm not. I forgot. And by the way, when you put this name in here for this Excel file, you don't have to leave this as it is. It will still know the link. I would make sure though that you'd still, I mean, if you wanted to take summary of, you could off. I'm going to leave it like it is and just put a 2 in here. Just so that I'm not overriding what I have, because there's something else I want to show you with that file. And I'm going to save that. I'm going to come in here and select the worksheet that I want, which is Bridge 1. And I could type in here Bridge 1, Box 1. I mean, I think for the most part you guys are going to find that, not 12, that you probably need, like, for the especially smaller bridges, you probably are going to need one of these summary boxes, but you might wind up needing several. So having the box number may be useful. I'm going to leave it to standard. I'm going to make sure I toggle off this Use Plot Scale, tell it OK, and it put it at the end of my cursor. At this point, I wouldn't be too worried about whether or not I had it centered up in my border or not, because when we start adding items, we may wind up having to modify the column widths or the location here, and when it does that, this is my insert point, so everything's going to go the other way. So you'll wind up moving this, and when you move it in MicroStation, that's perfectly fine. LDM remembers the link even though I may move where I've placed it, so that's all good. So placing it this first time, it doesn't have to be exact. Now that I have it open or linked, you'll see down here in Link Data Manager, I now have a line item in here for that link. If I right click, I have different options. If I open source, it's going to open up Excel for me. It opened up on the other screen. This is basically what you're going to be needing to fill in. Okay. I can make changes to this, and I'm just going to throw, and we do want these numbers to be in transport format. Hang on just a second. I need the keyboard. All right, so I would put in a, let's just say, what is that? Well, I'm just putting in one that I know is that mobilization? I just put in I think that's mobilization. It might be maintenance of traffic. I'm going absolutely blank. Whatever. And that would be all caps. And I could give it a location. I'm going to give it if it's lump sum, it would be just lump sum. And I have an example that I'm going to go through with you guys and show you. So it would have a quantity of 1. I just want to put something in here just so you can see it. And then the total would be 1. And there may be some things in here, and I'm going to go through these too, as far as modifying, like for example, if this is lump sum, I don't need it to be to 2 decimal places. I can go in here and format this. I can go through format, or I can actually use one of these where I can tell it, oh, wrong way, and change the accuracy of where that decimal place is showing at. Those would be whole numbers, right? I'm going to go ahead and just to show you, I'm going to open up the pay item description a little bit, and I'm going to open up this location a little bit because I know I'm going to need it, and I'm going to save the file. And this can be open or closed, it doesn't matter. Once I've saved the file, I can come back in here and I can tell it to update now. And when I update now, you'll see that it bumped these 2 columns out, moved the whole thing over, and it also placed the text that I just put in there. Okay. Really, really quick. I've got a few more slides that I've added into the presentation. Basically, some do's and don'ts that I've had in other presentations. And I just, in case you didn't see the other webinars, I wanted just to make sure that this information got out there. It's some basic summary box do's and don'ts. So some of the do's. Use LDM to create your Excel files. That's where that template's at, and that's the format that we want you guys to use. So use LDM to create those files. We've already formatted these files so that when you bring it in, it's on the right levels, it's on the right right weight. Those have already been adjusted for you, so you don't have to do any of that. Some other things that you can do is you can adjust the column widths like I just demonstrated. Sometimes you'll need to do that in order to alleviate some word wrap that happens. And as you go through, if you haven't started using these yet, sometimes you'll look in Excel and it looks perfectly good and everything fits in the cell just fine. But whenever you get it into MicroStation, it'll wrap the words on you. That's normal. A lot of people have thought that maybe something is broke. It's actually normal. Excel has it's like an intrinsic function where those cells has like a border within it. But it's a display purpose within Excel. When you bring it into MicroStation, since LDM is using the Excel formatting, when it comes in, it may word wrap because we have a buffer basically for those around each one of those cells, so that in MicroStation we can get that same border and look. Otherwise, the text starts right smack on top of that line, and they touch, and we don't want it to do that. That makes it difficult to read and just doesn't look pretty. Some other things, and I don't think you're going to do much of the deleting of the design columns. You're going to need all those columns, but for structures. But the rows, there may be sections. It's like I said, it's a template, and so it's got, you know, your superstructure, your substructure. It's got railing. It's got movable bridge. It's got all kinds of different like categories in the column on the left. And if you don't need all of those categories, you can hide them or delete them. Hiding works just as well. Then if something happens, you can just unhide those rows as you need them. But either way, that is acceptable. You can remove the rows in there that you don't use. And another thing that you can do, just kind of remember, is that if you're copying from another Excel file or a CSV file, make sure that you use the paste special using the values only option, so that you can keep the formatting that's in the Excel file. Because if you don't use the values only option, it brings some of that formatting from that other file into that spreadsheet. And if you change the borders or you change the font, well, you've just changed what it looks like when it comes into MicroStation. So that's one of the things I always try to also remind everyone. Some of the don'ts. Okay, we don't want you to delete the construction remarks column or any of the F columns, and that's for the final quantities. Leave those intact just the way they are. We ask that you not modify the summary box title other than to put in the bridge number. You do need to put the bridge number in there, but other than that, don't modify the summary box titles. There's also, I've had a lot of people try to do that, and we really want to keep it as consistent as possible. So if that really applies more to the roadway boxes that you may be using. If there's a need for something that you cannot figure out where it may go, you can give me a call and I'd be more than happy to help you out as far as which summary it needs to go in. We don't want you to add new columns. Really, there's not a need for that, and it will just create confusion down the road for construction. And I've also seen this, and this is why it's here, but creating separate Excel files for each box necessary for a particular summary. So say for summary quantities for bridge 1, it wound up needing to be 3 summary boxes that need to go on 3 plan sheets. Okay, then all 3 of those boxes would remain in the same XLSX file in Excel. They would just be 3 separate worksheets that you would link to separately with an LDM, but they can remain in that same file, and we want them in the same file so that construction has all the information in one place. Okay, and I think that was, yep. Another do and don't is filling out the form itself. To make it, 1, consistent, 2, more legible, we're asking that for these summary boxes that the first row where you have a pay item, you list the pay item number, the description, and the unit, and of course the location would be on, and the quantity is going to be on all of them. But only fill out the pay item number, description, and unit on the first line. Also, this grand total over here is on the first line. Okay, the rest of them between there and the next pay item, leave those fields or those columns blank to make it easier to distinguish. Okay, this is the removal of the existing structure, this is protection of existing structures. It separates it out better so that you can easily read what it is that you're going through, because if you'll notice, and I put 2 examples, this is a lot easier to read and tell where one starts and where the next one starts versus this one down here where everything is just repeated. Okay. And again, I've seen it. That's why it's here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go through the next couple of slides, and then I'm going to jump back into MicroStation and Excel and start showing you some tips and tricks. Roadway summary boxes is something that is going to be available soon. I'm working on some finishing touches, and it is going to be, we're going to get it out there on the FDOT community site, out there on Bentley's site. And basically what I've done is that I've set the settings file up such that if you're in the structures workspace and you need some of those roadway summary boxes, and these are the ones that I could think of, if you need more than this, please let me know. But you don't have to go into the roadway workspace in order to get these other boxes. They will be available within the structures workspace as well. And it's a different option in the drop down. These summary boxes, if you need them, would go on the general bridge summary of quantity sheets. So they would be the ones numbered BQ1-1, whatever, you know, whatever it may be. And also, I'm pretty sure I pointed this out already, but the summary of walls, originally this was included in the summary of structures quantities and has since been pulled out as a summary unto itself. The wall category on that other summary box has been removed. So they're now going to have their own summary box. And it's a little complicated on why we did all that, but there was a reason. Do you want to explain that? No, she does not want to explain that.
Just, it probably will be in the roadway plans unless you don't have the roadway component.
Right. So, all right. And kind of to go along with that, this was a slide I used last week, but these that I've circled in here are the ones that are made available in the structures workspace. And this is the basic order of how these need to go into the plans. So you would have lump sum items, general items, the temporary traffic control, and then erosion control if you needed it, earthwork if you needed it, as well as walls. Okay. The earthwork summary box, this would be if you needed earthwork, you would pull it out of the, let's see, let me make this as clear as possible. There is an earthwork section in the summary of structures quantities box, okay? And that hopefully for the most part would be sufficient. That would be the earthwork necessary for that particular bridge work. Sometimes you do have walls that are not attached to the bridge and you would have earthwork. If you have that situation, we don't want 2 summary boxes. It would all be 1 summary box. So the earthwork on the bridge you would remove and don't use the rows within that summary box and put all of it on the 1 earthwork summary box. Broken down by bridge if necessary, and the other areas by station range where those other walls may be, or whatever earthwork may need to be done. Hopefully that was clear as mud. Alright, and that being said, I'm going to jump back into MicroStation and go back to this summary box, and I want to just show you a few things within Excel to hopefully make things easier. So if there are any roadway guys, I don't think I've actually shown this before. I've never had time. But I have another Excel spreadsheet sitting out here that I have as an example. It's on my laptop. Let me go in and get this file real quick. webinar structures and no calculations, calculations, and so I put it in that one. Okay, so I'm going to open up this Excel file. Okay, this is an example of one of these summaries that has been filled out. I can't get to the bottom of it. Okay, so you'll notice that in column A over here, I have, it's already been put in here for me, the lump sum items, earthwork, foundation, substructure, and there are other ones in here as well. But these are the ones that I needed: the approach slabs, superstructure, and some railings in this particular project. Anything else, and you'll see like down here, it goes from 54 to 61. I've hidden some rows in here. That's not on the original. As well as up here, I hid some rows. Just wanted to point that out. So not everything has to be used and shown, just what you need. All right, I'm going to go ahead and it was summary quantities too. That actually works out perfect. I'm going to come to, I don't need that. In here, I'm going to open this source file as well. So this was the one that I just linked to, and I'm going to go into the view, and I'm going to view these side by side so I can see both of these. All right. There's a few tricks in here. May get a little frustrating without seeing this. If you'll notice here, let me maximize this and then turn that off. Oh, I was hoping it would. If you'll notice, for example, under lump sum items, I've got 1, 2, 3, I've got 4 rows in here, but I've only been given 2 up here. Okay, what I want to do, and it takes a little bit in here of, you may wind up having to format a little bit, but I want to copy, and then I want to use, if anytime I want to copy any of these rows, I want to make sure that I insert the copied cells. I don't want to just insert a row, because then I get default formatting. Okay, so I want to go ahead and copy the row and insert it in. If you escape, you'll notice that now this row right here doesn't have the right formatting above it. So I'm going to right click and go to Format Cells, go to the border. I want it to be the same as the one above it because it is, which is this second option down here, and click the top. Okay, so what that's done is it's made this all into one section. This dashed line comes out on a weight of 0, I believe, in your workspace, and then I believe this would come out at a weight of 1. I maybe have that a little off. Okay, but I needed 4, so now I'm going to copy again and insert some more of those, insert the copied cells. So now I have 4 rows that I can start putting the information in. That's the information that I need. I can take and copy this, which is fine. It may be a CSV file, it may be, another, Excel file. But whenever I go to paste it, I don't want to use the regular paste option. I want to go to paste special. From in here, I want to make sure that I use the values option and tell it OK. Alright. If you're using, and I think 2010 does this as well, but I know in 2013 we've just gotten it. Whenever I right click, instead of having this option, it'll actually give me like icons. And there's the second one over, you'll see it has the numbers 1, 2, 3, I think, but it's got numbers in the bottom. That's values only, and that is the option that you would use. Okay. And I could come in here and just start putting this information in. So let me copy that and paste special. Okay. It's a lot easier if you've got one of the newer versions. The other thing that as you go through, because it's hard to tell on my part to format this the way that it needs to be, what the units are is going to determine what the decimal places over here are going to be. So like I showed earlier, you'll just want to come in here and, like, this is lump sum, so make sure that, you know, it's to the right decimal place. Square yard items, those would be to 2. That one is to 2. It's this one that's not to 2. Yeah, never mind, it's to 1. So I can do all those. Actually, it won't let me, because they're not all the same. That one needs an extra, and then this one would be to the whole number. So just kind of go through that. If it's tonnage, obviously it's to the 10th, so this column would be to the 100th, and that one would be, the total would be to the 10th. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that I brought up, and it shows up, you can see it down here in the bottom under the foundation, down here, is that anything over here, the design notes column is there for you to put extra information in there so that it makes clear what's going on with this quantity over here. It may be a formula, it may be something as far, like, this is saying that, okay, I've got this piling that we're going to be putting in for whichever indent. So for indent 1, I've got 4 required, and the linear feet comes out to 172.3, but that's all 4 totaled together. So there's 4 required in here. So that's where this quantity comes from. There's 4 of them. In this one, there was only 3. Okay? So that type of information is a very good use for the design notes. And you'll see, I'm pretty sure I've gotten this right. They wanted the structures office, they want to see the end vents put together and the intermediate vents put together, you know, and grouped together like that. You may have sections where, example, these railings, this location would possibly be, instead of it being, you know, the spans or the bents, approach slabs, it may be a station to station range. And so that station to station range would be put within this section of the summary. Let me see, what else can I tell you and show you? I'm brainstorming, making sure that I've hit everything. Although we do have some questions. I think I've explained, well, everything except for your calculation documentation. I know I've went over this before in other webinars. Whatever you may wind up, in order to document your quantities, you may wind up with a formula or something such as, you know, 5 beams, or, you know, however many is required. That type of information, it can go into the design notes. I'm going to go ahead and close this section. That way we're back to our original. The other way that I could do this is to go into the design backup, and I could put in here anything that you could calculate, or a table that you could that you could create within Excel to show how something was calculated. That information can go in here. You may have used another program such as CADD. If that CADD, it comes out as a PRN, and generally you guys create a PDF of that, and that would be what would go into the comp book. Well, that PDF, if it is something that is commonly used, like it was a separate Excel file, it can stay in its natural state, like an XLSX. If it is something that not everyone necessarily may have that program, like MathCAD, I would create a PDF of whatever output that you receive, and then all of that, these Excel files and any of the PDFs, other Excel files, it may be a Word doc, it may be where you've scanned something, a sketch, whatever it may be, that needs to all go into the calculations folder. Okay. And just as an example, oh, I know one other thing that I wanted to show you. And the example that I had, I didn't need this movable bridge and I didn't need the special features. In this case, I would come in here and I could either delete or I can hide these rows. So I'm going to go ahead and just hide the rows. When I do that, it's kind of easier to see over here on the right. You see that the border is not the same. Okay. What I'd want to do in that case is to come in here, and you'll also want to format the border down at the bottom. The border goes on the second one from the bottom in the right column of options, and just make it match the outside. That way when it comes into MicroStation through LDM, you get the right formatting. So if I save this file now, I'm just going to minimize it, right click, tell it to update now. That information is now here. I can go back into that file and make any changes that I want, save them, bring it right back in that fast into MicroStation. I can move this, try to center it up a little bit more, maybe. Eyeball that in there. I can also grab it and hit Y so it's not moving up and down anymore. And snap to the center, and I've centered it. And I know it still sees this. As soon as I click on this link, it'll move my highlight back to it. Okay. All right, I think I've hit everything that I needed to. Let me go to the questions and let's see what we can do about answering them. All right, question 1. Would roadway items not be listed in a separate table specifically to bridge maintenance jobs without roadway plans? Yes, the roadway items would have their own summary boxes. They would not go in the structures quantities. The only exception to that, I think, would be the earthwork. Sometimes it's in the bridge section, and I've already explained how earthwork would work. Excuse me. If I did have roadway, for example, let me zoom out. If it was a standalone, basically I'm going to go ahead and just copy my sheet over so I have something to put it in. If I had something else to go in here and I had roadway, I would come in and create a new template. I would change this to the summary box as roadway, and I would say grab, for example, traffic control. Tell it OK, save it, and yeah, I do have it. To save, grab a worksheet. Oops, I did exactly what I told you not to do. Turn off use plot scale. And place my box. And then I would fill that out for the roadway. The sheet number down here would be BQ-1, where this would be a bridge and it says bridge 1, it would be BQ1-1. These sheets would come before these sheets. All right.
Yes.
All right, what is this one? How are special spread footers for lighting done, and are they included in the lighting plans? I think that would be included in the lighting plans, and that information would go with the pole. I'm not mistaken,
You would have to coordinate with whoever you're working with on the lighting plans, because that would require probably the concrete and the rebar, and I don't know that the lighting, usually the foundations are included type.
we just had some updates to those pay items, and I'm pretty sure they're all included. It's like they're it's like a light bulb complete. You might wind up with special foundation details, but I think it's still paid for, and it would go on the lighting plans.
That would be preferable.
Yeah, but it depends on, it's project by project, and work with whoever's doing the structures, or if you're the structures guy, whoever's doing the lighting plans, we'll just need to coordinate where all that information needs to go. Will quantities still be subtotaled so that the contractor knows materials for individual tasks? For example, cap, column, and footing as individual components of the per concrete quantity. That's a yes, right?
Yes, you definitely want to. You want construction to be able to look at it like they could the other way with the comp books and see where it goes. If you have a bent cap, you want to have separate detail or somewhere in the notes that says so much for pedestals. However it would be constructed, you want it to be broken down so that construction can follow it. So you would break it down.
Right, and that could be, where this location information, that could be broken down in the rows in here. You could put, I'm assuming, and I apologize for my not knowing I'm really not a structures person. That's why Cheryl's here. But you could break that down, into, if it's the caps, and whatever quantity that may be. And then, you'd have the concrete item over here. Obviously, it wouldn't be foundation, would it? Wherever it would need to go. And then the columns. However you just broke all that out, you could break that out here with the descriptions and for the location, and then put the quantities out, and then you'd have one grand total over here. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Yep, I already answered that. Calcs go in the calcs directory for the backups. Does the system allow the use of linked data values within the spreadsheet? In other words, if the quantity is calculated on worksheet X, can the result be dynamically linked to the P quantity box on the summary sheet within the same workbook? Yes, you'll have to set that up. So in other words, if I had a value sitting out here that I calculated, then I can come back over here and say, all right, I want this value whenever for that, fill everything else out. When I get to the quantity, just tell it equals, go back to that other workbook, select it, hit enter, and then that value will show up in your so wherever it may be. And by default, there's one design backup that's in here. That doesn't mean that's the only worksheet that you've got to work in. If you need to put in here, a design backup, just give it enough information. I would keep the design backup so that it doesn't get confused for construction, but you can add to this name and, put bridge 1 or, invent or whatever maybe to make it clear what is on that particular worksheet. But you can do that within here and then link that back to the original, no problem at all. All right. Earlier, Denise said that the wall summary boxes will be in the bridge plan set, but your colleague just said that they would be in the roadway plan set, which is correct. Okay. It can be in either location. It depends on the project. Most of the time, you'll have structures, and structures may have some of the wall details in their plans, but where it's located is going to be in the roadway plans. Roadway is going to show that wall in the plan sheet from station to station, wherever it is, and label it wall 1 or wall 10 or whatever it may be. Okay, so there's that wall in the roadway plans. They would include the quantity calculations for that wall in the summary box, summary of walls, and it would go in the roadway summary of quantities. If you don't have a roadway component, then that summary of walls goes within the structures component in the general bridge summary of quantity sheets. Hopefully I got that clear. It's project by project. Do we lump all quantities of walls, including those around the bridge, under roadway now? Yes. Now, the way it was explained to me by Missy Hollis was that all wall quantities go in the roadway plans, unless there's not a roadway component. That's the way it was explained to me. Where are box culverts quantified? If you have a box culvert, it can be, and it's in, well, a bridge culvert would be in these summaries. If you have a box culvert, that would go in the roadway plans. Roadway has a summary box for the summary of box culverts that they can use. The structures office has been working with the program that is out there that calculates the quantities and the details for the box culverts. They are in the process of getting that program so the output doesn't include the quantities, because we only want the quantities in these summary boxes. We don't want quantities spread throughout and multiple locations in the plans. That's why we've changed everything up for you guys and told you, okay, we're not putting them on all these sheets like you've done forever. We're going to be putting them in these summary boxes. It's so that it's only in one location, and that one location is so that when it goes to bid, it's in the plans, and those bidders have that information, and it's consistently in the same location in each component set, whether it's roadway on their summary of quantity sheets, structures is on a summary quantity sheet, and then everyone else, other component, has a tabulation of quantities. It's consistent throughout, and it's all located in one place. They don't have to go hunting and digging through every sheet. Can I make this sample summary of quantities available? Yes, I can. I will zip it up and put it out there with the webinar. Once I get all these question and answers formatted and answered, that'll all go out there along with the presentation. It will also be made available. For certain quantities on bridge plans, is customary to show summary boxes on those sheets. Yes, pedestals, bearings, etc. Is the intent to wholly replace the use of the tables to just summarize them on this sheet? Yes. Maybe referencing the sheets on the summary table on the construction notes? No.
We want to get rid of all those little boxes, and in the update of the structures manual, the detailing manual, you will see where we have taken those out. They are no longer there for the bents and the pedestals. We do want it broken out in the summary of quantities, but not with the bent sheets. Do not repeat twice. Just, you want the quantity here.
All right. How does this eliminate the need for a structure's comp book? Still need a way to verify columns, etc. Volumes. Sorry, I misread that. Verify volumes, etc. That backup documentation where you are documenting those volumes, okay, however that documentation may be, it is no longer going to be put into that format. It is going to be put in the calculations directory, whether that was a PDF of some sort that you may have included behind those comp book sheets. That now is going to be located in the calculations directory, and then this information that you put into this summary box, break it down the way that it needs to make it clear what you are calculating and where. That's why you have a location column, and any design notes to make it very clear what you've got going on. They can also, construction knows they're going to be able to go back and use that other documentation and where it's going to be located if they need to see that information. So no comp books. Do we still separate MSC walls for roadway and walls for bridge? That's a you question, Cheryl.
It's really a Missy question. Basically, all walls will go with the roadway plans. I would make sure you coordinate carefully, but the way the federal government reimburses for walls is only a very small section underneath the bridge itself, under the end bent is paid for. All the other walls that come back along the sides, the wing walls and whatnot, are not considered as part of the bridge. It's considered as part of the roadway as far as reimbursement from the feds. So they should all go in the roadway quantities.
Okay. Hopefully that cleared it up, I hope. How do you split the summary of pay items table if it does not fit in one sheet? Basically, what you need to do is you can add add rows, as many as you may need in here. I will tell you the magic number is down here at row 55. You can place down to row 55 and it will fit on your border and it will look fine. If you need more than 55 rows, okay, what you will do, and it'll take a little bit of formatting on your part, but basically what you need to do is basically just use the mover copy, put it in here and create a copy. Then I'd have bridge 1, sheet 2 in here. All right, so, and you can name that bridge 1, bridge 2, bridge 3. I would leave it kind of like this, most likely, for you guys, because you could put more than one bridge, but I really wouldn't recommend it. Actually, just scratch, I even said that. Let's not do that. But you go in here and just create the copy. You know, I've already used all of these. Now I need to document this information. Basically, I would just go in here and for this one, I would delete those rows. So now I'm documenting this information onto this part of the summary, and I'd go back in here, and these obviously wouldn't be here because I would have already hit my limit. I would delete these rows from this sheet, finish filling them out on this sheet, and then the one thing that I do want to make mention of is that, say the summary box wound up getting split in the middle of a pay item. Okay, so what I would want to do, say there was, it actually stopped here, all right, on this sheet. Let me go ahead and I'll do an undo with all this. So I delete this out. So I went in here and I had some quantities for whatever this pay item is. I don't even, Cheryl's over here, 415 something, okay? And whatever that description may be, I'd come over here, I had, you know, location 1, and obviously that's not what you would put in there. I'm being very facetious here. Whatever the units may be, cubic yards, tonnage.
Pounds.
Pounds. All right, we're gonna go put pounds in here, and I'd probably be LB, not LBS. Put in whatever this quantity may be, whatever this quantity may be, whatever this quantity may be. Okay, and that's location 1, 2, 3. Okay, but I'm not done. Okay, so whatever this is, copy that. Bring this back over here. I'm going to paste it over here. Values. I'm going to put in here whatever this description was. Get in there. I'll tell it that it is, oop, wrong key. It's continued. And I'll put location 4, whatever the quantity may be. And then back over here on bridge 1, this is where I want my total. So this would equal the sum. And this is another reason, as you can see, why I cannot put these formulas in here for you. So it's the sum of that plus, and hopefully that works, over here. And I want that one as well. I hit enter, and there's my total. I do not want to see that total repeated here. This will remain blank. The grand total only shows up on that that first row of that pay item. Okay. And we've run out of time. I'm going to see if I can answer maybe 1 or 2 more, and we are done.
Parentheses after the range.
Parentheses.
Before the plus.
What?
That's why it's not, the quantity isn't correct. If you go into the formula,
What did I do?
you need parentheses, the range, and I get the idea.
Then it needs,
We'll fix the quantity.
well, if I don't do it right here, somebody won't get it right later. I think that's what you need. Fix it. No, it is right. No, it isn't right.
Would it be advisable to create the calculation support spreadsheets within the same file under Design Backup, or save them as separate files under the Calculations folder? Just looking for some consistency on what the district will expect.
There we go. Okay.
I don't know that it makes a lot of difference. If it's under the Calculations folder, that's fine. If construction needs the backup calculations, they will find them.
All right.
That was this one. So let's,
We've already answered some of these.
yeah.
Okay. If you don't have many quantities, can bridge and general items be combined on one drawing with 2 tables? Yes. And it would just, when you combine it like that, it'd still be BQ-1. It's all on one sheet. You're good. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to have 2 summary quantity sheets if it all fits on one. When linking data values, must it be in the same Excel file? For example, we currently create separate Excel files for each pay item. Should we copy those worksheets into the summary of structures quantities and rename to Design Backup to keep in one file? No, that's not necessary. That's not necessary. You don't have to copy it in. If you're creating another Excel file in order to document a particular quantity, that's fine. Just make sure that it's got the pay item number, and then the information, though, needs to be put in here. And like we've been trying to explain it, so that you've got, you know, for example, you know, the location and then the quantity per that location, whether it's breaking it out for pedestals, caps, columns, bents, whatever, however you need to break that up. And make sure that it's clear here. But any backup like that where you've calculated it into another spreadsheet, or that's fine. They can remain in those separate files. You don't have to copy them in. We're not trying to make this more difficult. If that's your workflow now, you've already got it set up and it works and it's fast, don't change it. You're doing fine. Okay, I'm not. Noise walls, they would go on the summary of walls. Are the files saved to the calculations backup subdirectory to be formally submitted? the calculations directory will be, it will be submitted to construction winds up with it. At bid, they don't. They'll have all of your summary boxes, but they won't have the CAD files. But there will be a CAD.zip file that will be submitted that will get to construction. This way it's been explained to me. And then I've already explained how do you start the second table within the same file. Like I said, you take and copy the first, delete whatever you don't need, and go from there. All right, I think we've answered most of the questions. I appreciate everyone's patience, and I appreciate everyone attending today. I do appreciate it. I hope that we've answered your questions. If you do have any more questions for us, please feel free to send us an email. I know that I've had several people that, from the structures groups that has contacted me, and we've gotten them moving and hopefully in the right direction. Hopefully this webinar today has helped clear up some questions that you may have. And like I said, if there's anything else, we're here. You can contact me. Let me flip back over to my slideshow. You can contact me. Here is my contact information. I apologize, I didn't think about it. I should have. But you can also contact Cheryl Hudson in the structures office here in central office. She would be more than happy to help you. If you don't know where or how to document it within that summary box, she would be more than happy to help you. You can also, if you have questions as far as pay items, I saw the other day where I was looking through what Missy has out in the BOE, and she has gotten a lot of these, she's gotten a lot of the summary box names, and I think it's a category now where just above where the forms, old comp book forms, those are still there because they're still allowable until January. But that she's getting those comp book or the summary box names into that document that's posted out on the BOE. So that should start helping a lot of you figuring out which files you need to be using and how to start documenting this using the new summary boxes. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a fantastic day and a wonderful week, and we will broadcast again next week.